Did you like and subscribe? Did you like and subscribe? So, Tomorrow Never Dies is the first Bond film to be titled something that has nothing to do with either the novels, the short stories, references to the James Bond mythos, or Ian Fleming himself. The title was actually based off of a Beatles song, so another connection to the Beatles.
Yet again.
That's as bad as listening to the Beatles without earmuffs.
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 Ringo Starr, a.k.a. the man who would go on to marry a Bond girl.
Shared bodily warmth.
Just like you, McCurdy, Ringo Starr was notorious for just his misspeakings and just these odd things that he would say. And that's where the title came from. He was telling a story about how somebody snipped off a lock of his hair when he wasn't looking. And during that interview, that's when he uttered the famous phrase.
I was talking away and then, there it goes. And I looked round, there's about 400 people just smiling, you see. We had that in the other program. You know, so you can't blame, you know, what can you say?
What can you say?
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow never knows.
But it was originally titled Tomorrow Never Lies, which makes a lot more sense.
Oh.
However, sometime during production, a fax was sent and it was misspelled as, there was a typo, as Tomorrow Never Dies.
Really?
And then producers were like, dude, I like that title. It's so much better. And so they changed it to Tomorrow Never Dies.
Interesting.
Tomorrow Never Lies makes more sense with the themes of the movie, but
if it was the smarter movie that I was kind of getting at in that intro, you know, this movie is reaching to be smart, and it could have been, but at the end of the day, it's just a big, dumb action movie. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing inherently wrong with that.
No.
And it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I actually really enjoy this movie. Contrary to everything I just said, I really like this movie, but that doesn't mean it's smart.
No.
Tomorrow Never Lies was probably the version of the script that was smart.
So I'll get into that. Speaking of the script, this film had a lot riding on it due to the success of GoldenEye. So MGM wanted the film out by '97 to coincide with stock options that they were going to have available at that time.
That makes sense. You can just feel that this movie was rushed. That it was like, we had 6 years of no Bond, and we had time to regroup and reconsider our approach, and they GoldenEye, and then it's like, we had a hit, we got a cat, we need to get something out. We're like, Pierce, we need you back right away. And then you know, that shows more than anything, not just with the somewhat lack of story, and it's just all plot, and it's a lot of action, but even something as simple as the sound is comical. The sound effects are from like a cheap library. Yeah. Waylon shoots a control panel, and they use shitty sound effects of pottery breaking, which, like our love affair with Red Letter Media, they use that sound effect all the time. That's why Nans and I pick up on it.
Indy throws him the whip, and it's like, hang on. Wait a minute, what was that? Was that the Curlin Neskar?
There's even a moment where Bond uses his silenced pistol, and they use the wrong sound effect. Every punch sounds the same. Every kick sounds the same. Maybe this is just the advantage of seeing this like 20 years later.
Yeah.
Maybe at the time that was new, but now those sound effects are funny. I heard one of these sound effects in the original Ring, the Japanese Ring, and it makes me laugh. I'll cut it in here. Bond is being punched and kicked with these funny sound effects that make me laugh and giggle, and then Waylon, wah, and like pottery's breaking as she's shooting a control. It's like, it's goofy. It's like they must have rushed. Whereas GoldenEye, I think a guy like Martin Campbell is like a no nonsense, no bullshit. I get my way. I'm here to make the best movie on the fucking planet. You're gonna get original audio. And then Spotswood's like, I don't know, use a stupid sound library. I don't give a
Speaking of in this movie, that's terrible. The satellite shot where they were like, let's go to space to see the new satellites. Yeah, okay, I know you're going to say, Charlie, that it's of the time.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't factor into ranking.
Again, to go back to Martin Campbell, he knew how to use CGI in a subtle way that isn't like putting it in your face,
And like
right?
miniatures
The
and stuff,
GoldenEye satellite is predominantly a miniature,
Yeah,
so it
and it
stands
works.
the test of time, whereas the Carver satellite just looks like a cartoon. It looks as cartoony as the man himself.
In another movie, someone would have been taking that same CGI image and just used it as a demonstration. Oh, this is the satellite. This is what it looks like up in space. And then it would have been like a shot of like our satellites. And then they would have showed like, oh, this is just a recreation. You know, like you see those on the news nowadays as if or like it's in a press kit where like NASA will release a press kit and be like, this is our new satellite. And this is what it's going to look like, or this is our new Mars rover. This is what it's going to look like. And they'll
They
take
have
the
these
CGI
animations that look like that, yeah.
animation, and it looks great for that. But when you watch it and you realize, oh no, this is supposed to be what it actually supposed to look like in space at this exact moment in the movie. This isn't somebody like, this is the recreation. No, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
It looks really, really bad. It's not the worst part of the movie, but it definitely ages it.
To their credit, they didn't go crazy with the CGI.
It's only that one
used it
shot.
for
I thought
select
they only used it in one shot in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's other CGI, of course, but I know what you're talking about. You're saying the entire shot is CGI.
They definitely used miniatures for all of the boats and stuff in the end of the movie for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if they did that, why did they use CGI for the space stuff? Did someone think, oh yeah, it'll look like space stuff?
You already had a satellite prop, the $300 million thing.
Be careful. It's worth $300 million. You break it, you bought it.
Just take the satellite prop, take some video of it, and just put it in space. Why did you have to do CGI? It is a telltale detail of coming off of GoldenEye and rushing something out.
MGM wanted the film out by 97 to coincide with the stocks options, and at the same time, treatments for the plot had originally involved British government handing over Hong Kong to China, because remember, Hong Kong, the city, was owned by the British government before it went back to China. 97 was when the British government was going to hand it back. So they wanted the film to kind of tie in with that. But then obviously those plans were pretty much scrapped, but you can tell that China was still involved in the script for this new film. Bruce Feinstein? Fernstein?
It looks like Fierstein.
Fierstein.
Right? I never correct you anymore because I have too much fun making fun of you.
I haven't drank enough. Fierstein returns with a script based on his time in journalism and his experiences watching the Gulf War on cable news. Director David Spotswood, and he was a writer on 48 Hours
Holy
and directed...
Dude, you pronounced a difficult last name perfectly. When you got David wrong, it's Roger Spotswood, but...
Go get
that was... I'm so proud of you.
I hate you so much. So Spotswood, he was a writer on 48 Hours. It's like the biggest claim to fame he had before this movie. And then he directed a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger after this, The Sixth Day. And he actually brought on Nicholas Myers, who you may or may not know was best known for the better Star Trek films, to do rewrites on this movie, even though he's not credited. But all that being said, the script hadn't even been finished yet before they started filming. So that may answer some of your problems, Charlie. With this movie.
Yeah, that, and go line up Martin Campbell's IMDb next to Mr. Spotswood's, and you kind of see what we're in for here.
Now, many people have made comparisons with Elliot Carver.
Worldwide media baron, able to topple governments with a single broadcast.
And Rupert Murdoch of News Corp, aka Fox News. But Fernstein says he based the character off of a media mogul named Robert Maxwell, who's a British media proprietor, who had a very similar death to the one M creates at the end of the film.
Elliot Carver is missing, presumed drowned, while on a cruise aboard his luxury yacht in the South China Sea.
For a movie about fake news, it's fun that Carver's death is then covered up with fake news. But that's how the British government works. The BBC is literally run by the government. They can say whatever the they want. Why do you think James Bond himself says?
I never believe what I read in the press anyway.
It's because he knows that every secret mission he's ever gone on has been covered up in the press.
But I also pointed out again, like the character was sort of based off of that
Like a real life guy, yeah, who died.
Well, apparently the story was, I didn't read all into it, but apparently this guy who was a media mogul of some type in Britain, you know, he was also on Parliament at some point. He killed himself on his yacht. And after he died, they found out there was a bunch of financial, like, he was basically stealing tons of money from his own company.
Murdoch.
And so,
Oh, wow.
Murdoch?
this wasn't Murdoch. This is Ian Robert Maxwell is the guy's name.
Okay.
But apparently they semi-based him off of this character. You can also see it's Randolph Hearst, but also maybe Rupert Murdoch, you know, maybe even Ted Turner in there. You know, it's an amalgamation. Elliot Carver was originally asked to be played by Anthony Hopkins, but Anthony Hopkins turned it down to work on GoldenEye director Martin Campbell's movie Mask of Zorro, which is also a really great movie. And then we got Jonathan Pryce, who would make another Bond alum in Game of Thrones, because we've had several by this point. And then we've got Terry Hatcher, at this time was best known for playing Lois Lane on Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Most people today, I think, know her from Desperate Housewives, but that's what she was known for in the 90s. She was 3 months pregnant when she began filming for the role, so her scenes had to be shot sooner rather than later. And she was also quoted for taking the role because her then husband had always dreamed of being married to a Bond girl. Let's see, who do we got?
Good for him.
For as long as it lasted, good for him. Michelle Yeoh plays the first ethnic Chinese Bond girl, because if you remember, in Dr. No, we had Miss Taro, and she was played by a British actress, but she's supposed to be Chinese. This was her first American role. She had done a bunch of Chinese films, some with Jackie Chan, and then she wanted to do her own stunts for this film, but Spotswood wouldn't let her because of the insurance, because when you're doing a film like this, I mean, the insurance for Mission Impossible movies has got to be ridiculous for Tom Cruise to do all those stunts that he does. So he wouldn't let her do any of the stunts. However, she did get to do all of her own fight scenes.
Pathetic.
Of course, we get the return of JDB as Jack Wade. Because can't get enough JDB.
You free fall for 5 miles and use your oxygen, or you'll die of asphyxiation. Sounds like my first marriage.
Third wife.
We have our first appearance of Charles Robinson, who is MI6 Deputy Chief of Staff, played by Colin Salmon. And that's sort of a pseudo replacement for Bill Tanner because the actor who played Bill Tanner in the previous film couldn't come back. So they created this new character, Charles Robinson, who is, I guess, the second in command because Bill Tanner's the Chief of Staff. So he's the Deputy Chief of Staff. The film also introduces the Walther P99.
The new Walther. That's cute to get me one of these.
Which replaced the Walther PPK until we get to another James Bond down the road. So they just decided they wanted to update the gun because they were like, oh yeah, Walther's got this new gun they wanted to promote. And this movie's, we'll get into talking about this. This movie's very much a commercial.